Hey, happy Juneteenth. Oh man, it's really about my favorite holiday now. This year, especially this year, because I think this is the year we ought to do something with it more than we have done. Because I don't want to call it the National Independence Day, but it is National Freedom Day. And that's a fact. I know, slavery didn't actually end until December of 1865 when the 13th Amendment was ratified. But I just soon celebrate the end of freedom. I mean, the end of slavery on Juneteenth because I think it'd really be a good way and a reason to have a season of liberty every year. Have it start on Juneteenth and continue to July 4th. And we talk about what freedom actually consists of because Juneteenth marks the at least partial fulfillment of the original contract the American people made in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I'm here to tell you, the men that wrote that, and they were just pretty much all men. I bet a lot of women put some input, but the men that wrote that knew from day one that that statement was incompatible with chattel slavery, incompatible with any kind of real slavery. Incompatible. Those two things that you cannot have a dedication to liberty and justice for all and allow legal slavery to go on. And some of them immediately started into abolition movement. This country was the first country to really start making slavery illegal. I'll give England all kinds of credit, won't give them all the credit. Because our country, the United States of America, started making slavery illegal in, what was it, Vermont, 1777. Okay, they got the idea real quick. They wasn't even a state yet. But they go, oh, that's a good idea right there. And because of that, 1780, Pennsylvania, 1783, Massachusetts. And I know they phased it and they did this, they did that. They started making it illegal. And they were the first ones in the world to start making it illegal. And that's just the fact of the matter. Our Declaration of Independence inspired a worldwide movement to abolish legal slavery. I know Great Britain made slavery and the slave trade illegal before the United States did, and quite a few other countries did as countries before the United States did as a country, okay? But even there, while it took us a little while to all get on board, we ended up fighting a heck of a war to end it. Millions of us were willing to fight and die and even kill to end legal slavery. And that is what it came to. And the point about that is that our system of government was intended by the founders to be a nation of small republics. I mean, that's what they envisioned, is kind of reproducing the local small republics that had epitomized that had been standard in ancient Greece and Rome. But the problem with those city-states is once they got to a certain size and power, they started fighting each other. And so the American system was designed to be a federal government that keeps these local republics from fighting each other, but that within the local republic, the people are really free to govern themselves. And that system then produces strong Republican virtues. And that was the intention. And I'm telling you, it worked to a large degree. The first few generations after the Constitution was established were just the most reform-minded generations. By the 1820s, they started state by state taking down property requirements to vote. Yeah, it was still white males, but that was a move in the right direction, and a lot of other moves in the right direction in those eras. Not the least of which was the abolition movement, which did result in ending slavery. And you got to think about that. It was our system that caused this change. But from 1776, when Before the Declaration was written, there wasn't a lot of real focused thought that maybe we should end slavery, right? It was fairly accepted and not questioned, okay? By 1861, the nation had really turned in its thinking, and they were ready to say, well, maybe slavery should not be going on at all. Okay, that is a huge change in the consciousness of a people. You're talking millions and millions of people that came to these conclusions and were willing to really fight to see it change. And the point about that is, I just don't think you can point to very many other systems that have ever generated that kind of heightened community consciousness. And that's the whole point of why to preserve this system. Yeah, I see people talking about we need to have big socialism, to provide food and housing and clothing and everything for everybody, right? And like I say, I like the idea of society providing that. I just don't think socialism is the best way to do it. In fact, I'm quite sure it's not. And unlike liberty, which sets up some really positive social dynamics and produces a good, strong, moral people, socialism, big government socialism, has some very negative dynamics that do the exact opposite. The elitist rulers have every reason to cause people to be dependent. And they do that by inducing vice and sloth and all kinds of bad habits because that's how they stay in power. And that's really a lot of what's wrong with socialism. It's not that the intentions are wrong, it's that when you set it up with that kind of elitist top down structure, it will always produce a dependent and degraded populace. The thing is, if we listen to all this socialism and keep going down this route, we're going to lose our republic. There'll be some kind of civil war breakout. We'll lose the republic. And that'd be such a tragedy, not just to the people of this country, certainly to the rest of Western civilization, and in reality to the entire world. We'd be so much better off if we could figure out how to put our system back together the way it's supposed to be. And we could do that if we concentrated on it. And if we did that, got our system working, oh man, we would really be able to beat back the corporate beast, but not kill it. Put it in a cage where it belongs. Put it to harness, but don't kill it. There are a lot of liberty and community-based ways we can go about establishing a much more just economic order in our society without risking the pitfalls of big socialism. I'm going to go into some of those community-based, market-based solutions and remedies to our society. So they're really some very creative and they will be very effective solutions, but time prevents at this point. The fact of the matter is, by going the way of ordered liberty, we can actually find our path and a way to share the planet. With big top-down elitist socialism, we never will. I think the big thing to understand about the African American experience and why it seems like, how can we get past this? How can black people and the American people as a whole, especially the traditional whites, how can we get past this? And I figured a way, but we got to first be kind of clinical and look at what really happened, which is, I might be want to sit down. In the Middle Passage, coming over on these slave ships, naked and chained down, and just with enough room to eat when they pass the gruel around, and they arrive in this country, be forced to have new food, new clothes, new language, new reality. When you come to social coherence, any African dialect and language is being actively discouraged. So when you come into social awareness again. It is as a speaker of stilted, intentionally ignorant English and at the bottom of the social ladder. Okay? For that reason, since it happened almost universally to all the people that came over, because we quit importing them in 1808, and so that traffic ended. But the whole experience, not just getting over here and being stripped of everything, but new clothes, everything, a completely new reality. The point being, this is a new ethnic group. I think is we've got to begin the analysis by realizing this is a people that really got formed on these shores, much more than the African slaves in South America and stuff. Because so much of what they did was out in the fields, and nobody was discouraging them from talking. They weren't worried about what they were saying. They're planning on working them to death. Hey, okay, that's not what was going on in the United States. Especially as time went on, actually, especially after they stopped importing them, it became a breeding thing. But because of that, and because of the large numbers, the white people concentrated on nothing more than they concentrated on making sure there was no African identity left to the African Americans. Okay, and largely succeeded. But the bigger thing is, once we can see that there's this new people, okay, the important thing to recognize about why that's important today is this is a people that has never truly experienced the powers and responsibilities of self-government. They've been taken from slavery to Jim Crow. In the Civil Rights Movement, they finally started getting some equality, but that was right when LBJ and the whole Great Society usurped almost all the powers that FDR had left. Okay, LBJ got the rest of them, right? Usurped them and just took them, leaving the American people as a whole without any of the true powers of self-government. That's the world the African Americans inherited on gaining equality. Truly, the pie turned rotten just as they finally got their slice. So they went from slavery to Jim Crow to socialism with never a stop-off to any kind of real community self-government. The point is, the African American community has never enjoyed or been challenged with the powers and responsibilities of self-government. This would be the true and effective form of reparation, to place those powers in the hands of the African American community. That would start to heal the wound that they've suffered since the beginning of their experience here. Similarly, the cause of the moral and social decline of the entire American country has been because of the loss of self-government. The restoration of the powers of local community moral self-government would likewise be a fix. It's just exactly what the doctor ordered to turn this country back to the way it's supposed to be. That the ordered liberty of the American Constitution has a tremendously good effect on the people. If they pick it up and can work it and use it, it not only requires them to be a moral people, it induces a higher level of morality and moral thinking in them. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to being Americans and ready to kick some ass, because we see that we have a better system than anybody else in the world has ever had, and we're not haughty about it. It was a happy chance of the people that set it up were in a very unique circumstance where they needed to come up with a really good form of government. They came up with one probably better than they would have liked. You know, at the time they knew they had to produce something that the people would approve of, and they had to produce something that would be stable enough to keep them from hanging. So in doing both of those, I think they gave us more than they really wish they had. 10 years later, they go with the Alien Sedition Act. That proves what I'm saying. But I think from day two, there was someone who said, man, I wish we didn't give them that much. But we don't know how much we got to give them. So we better err on the side of making sure it's enough, which means the system of government they gave us really is something the people, And I'm talking about the Marxist people wanting power, wanting to really do something. It is the best tool we could possibly construct. The intellectual dynamics of the Constitutional Convention of the United States were so unique and so good, we ought not allow that germ of liberty to just die out because we're too stupid to realize how precious it is. Okay? We don't need to put it out. We need to revive it, make it work again, and then get a whole lot better with making it work again. Reverse the whole being propagandized and dumbed down into zombiehood. Pick up the media, start educating ourselves, start using it in a good way. I love what some of these reporters are doing, going in and getting interviews, ambush interviews with people that need to be ambushed. Okay? But yeah. Well, I'm going to always talk about the open media, because it is the way we can get everything else done. At this time, the important thing I'm calling for is let's have one heck of a good Juneteenth, and let's just keep on having Juneteenth for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, every year. Let's start having a season where we're getting together and really talking about what we're doing, because we're not going to be able to do it using the media, even the phones and stuff. I think we need to physically be able to get together, and that's going to take some prayer to work that to where it doesn't result in something bad. But we better get to it, because we need that intelligence. We need that wisdom. We need to come together and actually have a discussion. We need that discussion about what freedom means and how we can go about strengthening it and preserving it. Happy Juneteenth. Talk to you later.